While at her mother's pine table, eating hot biscuits, issues like homelessness, religion, rape, or even ghosts cease to exist. Like always, by the time Lily emptied the blue tin plate, her anger and terror subsided. Worst case, what would happen if they did arrest Father? Winnie brushed flour from the counter. There's always McGeesy's lot of land to the north, and Grandfather Nannock's land to the south of this plot. I suppose we'd move south since the dam would flood most of McGeesy's plot, although it would make it easier to access the water. Always the optimist. McGeesy's plate remained empty and clean, even though they'd already finished the meal. McGeesy had been gone for hours now. Winnie began to clean up the table, leaving the drama behind as easily as she swept away crumbs. Lily had to keep her focus. Why would they tear down the Greyhawk Bridge and then plan to build another down by the lake? I suppose it'll be metal and concrete instead of logs. I wouldn't mind having a bridge. Let them build it. Folks won't have to travel through our property to cross. Why do I let McGeesy go right back to Nannock? Now McGeesy will hate all white people. Her thoughts turned to good people, like Sister Inez, and do you remember me telling you about the Jesuit priest? How could I forget about your mystery man? Before they left, they talked about him. They acted like Father Guerin could stop them or something. Interesting. What? Lily asked defensively, not knowing how her mother referenced him. I've always heard tales of Jesuits, but I didn't think they still existed. Besides, fur trappers, they were some of the first white people to visit. Perhaps your mystery man will be an ally. Willie's dimples flashed. So I could trust him with this information? No. Best keep your head low. Jananishins is a dangerous man. There are all sorts of stories from him about him that come out of Canada. I heard he had to flee some cattle town near Calgary because of murder charges. So he came to Minnesota and fought in the Civil War when he was your age. This isn't his home? Winnie shook her head. Morrison County is named after his grandfather, but there were Morrisons trading along the Mississippi River long before that. Now, he's using the new laws to force us off land that can be sold to white farmers, or your dam builders. Then why does Adam Thunderface sell alcohol at the Loose Goose? Corruption. He gets a cut and inside information from Thunderface. Winnie turned from the sink, her expression grim. Now, do you see why Nannock hates the whole Thunderface family? Yes, and I slept with the enemy. I do, but... McGeesy burst through the door. There are people coming from the north. Lily and her mother joined him on the porch in time to see a diverse throng approaching. Children and old men. The children Lily knew, including Fawn, running ahead of them. What's going on? Winnie asked once Fawn stopped on the bottom of the stairs. There are 3 old blanket men with an escort of younger men to watch over them. Are they pillagers? Winnie asked. Fawn shook her head. I think they're Mede priests. One of them is from the Merman clan. I don't know where they're from, but they're old. What are blanket men? McGeesy asked his mother. The blanket men live in a world where the Zaganash does not exist, like your grandfather. They hold on to the old ways, refusing to change. Lily looked down at her clothing. And I'm wearing a plaid dress. Here comes more scorn. The Leduc, Chevril, and Labiche children surrounded the old men, who procured trinkets and treats from the many pouches tied to their ornate clothing. "Greetings, how can I help you?" Winnie asked rigidly with her arms crossed. "We have come to speak with Nanakonin of the Turtle Island, Chippewa." "Nanakonin is my grandfather," McGeesy said. The three elders wore a small fortune within their ornate clothing, whereas the shirtless McGeesy looked like a turtle without a shell. Lily wanted to put him back in the house, but he was fearless in the faces of the strangers. "We have come to speak to your grandfather about your future," the midday-wearing Claus said to McGeesy. "What about my future?" "That is for your grandfather to decide. Join us." The one with porcupine quills in his hair placed a hand on McGeesy's shoulder, and they all continued down the trail. The children went to follow, but Winnie called out, "Children, stay!" As soon as Fawn obeyed, so did the rest. "You're letting McGeesy go with them?" Lily asked softly. "These are important men. It's your brother's choice which path he follows." "No, I'm not going to let them take my brother." Lily stepped off the porch and jogged to the front of the procession, as if to lead the way. The oldest man in the group reached over and grabbed her by the chin. Lily flinched in fear, but held steady to show the elders the respect they deserved. "You have a lot of your mother in you," the man with long white braids declared as he inspected her face. "I see both Sioux and Pillager in you. Does she dress you in these clothes?" "No, I bought them myself from a store in Alexandria." "A store in Alexandria?" the midday mocked. "How did you earn the coin of the Zaganesh?" "I was a teacher at White Earth last year." "So you are the puppet, making our children say the words you were taught in one of their schools, right?" Sister Lynch was right. This older generation will never change. "I'm not a puppet. I'm helping my people learn how to live in this new world." "This new world," the old man scoffed. "What do you know of this world? When I was your age, the Anishinaabe roamed the woods free. Soon, all our lands will be sold, and our people will vanish in the winds. That will be our new world." Lily stiffened as the caravan moved around them, continuing down the path. "Pay no attention to Little Toad," a tall, robust man wearing wolf claws said as he stepped up beside them. "My name is James Graysky. My clan is Mindgang, the wolf, so my blood is mixed like yours. And I understand better than the other clans how the world can change. If we are to survive, you will need educated youth like you to speak for our people. What is your name?" Tuwapa Asabakashi, but I prefer Lily Weber." Graysky smiled. "Tuwapa, the water lily. So McGeesy does indeed carry all the hopes of both the Sioux and the Chippewa. Why have you come here?" "Don't worry, we are not pillagers. We are old allies. I come from the Lacs. Clyde Speaks First comes from Fond du Lac, and Joseph Littletoad is from Bad River. We're your scattered kin." He patted her shoulder as the others continued walking down the trail. "Nothing is going to happen to your grandfather or brother. We are going to perform a ceremony to mark your brother for a path of leadership. We hope he can one day unite the scattered tribes of the Chippewa. But if your grandfather's right, he might be destined for something greater." "He's just a child," Lily muttered. "Yes, perhaps we have come for the wrong child." At her snort, James Graysky winked and continued walking. "But your brother found McGee shells, and that cannot be quickly dismissed." How did news travel so quickly? But then Lily glanced at the handsome young men mingled within the group, who served as a human telegraph system for the elders. Did Nanak send for them? Lily stopped as they neared the old sweat lodge, where her grandfather already stood, preparing it. "I can't let these superstitious men claim my brother." So she waited. Chapter 11. A Wolf in Spectacles. The following Sunday, Lily walked to Split Rock alone, leaving McGeesy with the blanket men. Being alone allowed her to seek out the mysterious Jesuit priest after Mass and Sunday school ended. After all, I need to warn him about the danger. Lily stood beside the large pine tree and watched the family's picnic together. As the only native, she kept her distance. At the center of the picnic, she spotted white-haired Albert Fisher. Albert's family owned the sawmill, and despite him being the frailest child in her class, his family was the most powerful, yet showed their power by sharing the wealth in food and beverage. On the edges of the picnic, nearest the horses and wagons, Lily saw Bjorn Forsberg. Bjorn's family were red-headed Swedish dairy farmers, making them easy to spot in the crowd. Even in a social setting, the grim young man spoke as little as his family. Between the two families, Lily spotted Emily McPherson. Emily's family were blonde-haired Scots and also dairy farmers. Her older brother Willem looked to be in his late teens. Americans are so colorful. Although Father Aber, Sister Inez, and a few other nuns mixed with the crowd, the tall Jesuit priest was absent. Lily then remembered what Sister Inez had said about the balcony, so she stepped back into St. Marie's Catholic Church, walked to the back doors, and climbed the steps of the balcony. Although the balcony was empty, a foreign chair and a crate of books had been placed at the front row. She stepped closer, curious as to the titles, finding Frederick Baraga's A Dictionary of the Ojibwe Language, William Warren's History of the Ojibwe People, and Henry Rose Schoolcraft's The Myth of Hiawatha. Lily's heart jumped when she heard heavy steps coming up the stairs. Great, I've trapped myself. Quickly, she stepped forward and grabbed one of the books, picking it up as if already deep in thought. Bonjour, a man greeted. She dropped the book a bit and panicked on what to say. You owe the children a box of chalk. Excuse me? Father Guerin shifted back to English, blinking at her. Did I just say that out loud? Her eyes went to her feet. Italicized. A few Sundays ago, you were looking and ran into me, and a box of chalk broke into a bunch of small pieces. Do you know how much children love full sticks of chalk? I believe I already apologized for the incident, and I certainly can reimburse Sister Inez for any expense. His smooth face cracked a crooked smile, and when he didn't say anything else, Lily felt her heart begin to race. Say something. What's with all these books? Coincidentally, I'm learning all about Anishinaabe culture. The beings made out of nothing. It bothered her that the priests used their name instead of Chippewa. From books? Before I make a fool of myself, I had to get a running head start. He set down a crate of books that he was carrying. You're Lily from the Mizhike Reservation. Yes, I'm from the Turtle Island Reservation. When I was baptized, I took the name Lily Weber. My birth name is Tuapa Asabakashi. Asabakashi, the spider. Then he snapped his fingers. Thus, Weber. I can only assume Tuapa means lily, but isn't the word Makopining? Lily laughed at the way he said it. It's a Lakota word for a beautiful lake my mother knew. Tuapatakian, of course. The lake with the crooked roots. Joseph Nicolet wrote about it in his report to Congress. Who is this priest? As much as she wanted to warn him about Bushy Bill, then bolt out of the door from nerves, another question came out. Why would you know this? He laughed. Dimples formed in his clean-shaven cheeks. Despite his height, he was thin, with short black hair and small circular glasses. He's a priest, Lily. Don't look at him that way. I'm an ambassador, which requires me to be a scholar. The Society of Jesus sent me out here to assess and give aid to the humanitarian crisis happening to the American Indian reservation system. So I have to read a lot of books. He paused, smiling. Joseph Nicolet was an astronomer and mapmaker who traveled all over Minnesota, from Lure Lake to Lake Manitou. Nicollet Rapids, of course. Yeah, my grandfather knew Nicollet. Your grandfather is Shagobay, Nicollet's guide? Garen's enthusiasm brought him closer to her again. She moved to stand at the edge of the balcony to remain visible for any parishioner below. Shagobay was my great-grandfather. My grandfather Nanak was just a boy when he met Nicollet. Oh, I'd very much like to meet your grandfather. I don't think he'll meet you, she said quicker than she intended. All of his white friends died, so he pretty much hates all white people now. He barely acknowledged me after I converted, so he'd really hate you. He's living on the Turtle Island Reservation? Lily hesitated. He lives on the first lot north of the Loose Goose Saloon, on the Nimrod Road. Now would be the time to mention Bushy Bill. That's why I wanted to come talk to you. There's a group of men who are trying to buy up all the land in order to put up a dam. Triton Corporation. Yeah, she said, surprised. You seem to know everything. If you're some sort of ambassador, can you help us? Father Garen sighed and sat on the chair. These are complicated times, aren't they? Right now, I'm only in a position to observe and report. My superiors understand what's going on, but until I can gather more information, unbiased information, it will remain a terrible situation. I've been visiting reservations and communities all across the Great Lakes region before setting up camp here. Perhaps we could help each other. He's making me nervous. How could I help you? It's one thing to have a teenage girl laugh at you, but it's another to have a village elder or chieftain mock you. Sure is. He seems genuine. I can promise you I do not want Triton to buy any more land, and I'll do everything I can to prevent that from happening. But I have bigger fish to fry, so to speak, and if I'm able to find a solution to this illegal land grab, I'll need to meet tribal leaders. You can help me practice my Anisha Mob and Moen. Lily chuckled at his attempt to a third language. You want me to be a tutor? I can speak to your parents about it if that helps. Talking to my father would be more difficult than my grandfather. Has he passed? No, he's the leader of the Black Hat Gang, a notorious group of bootleggers. He'd take one look at you and make it his mission to torment and humiliate you. He's a bad man from what I know. Big Squeak? Good Lord. Now really wanted to bolt for the stairs. Squeak Homick is his given name, but yes. How do you know him? I met with Chief Sweatingstone up on Bear Island. The only thing he complained more than the theft of pine was the corruption of the youth by alcohol. He seemed to hate Big Squeak the most. Well, there's a complicated reason for that. Why does this feel like my family is on trial? Something is wrong. As much as I'd like to be a tutor, I'm trying to find a teaching position this fall, and I have a lot of letters to write. Thank you for your kind offer. Besides, you're far too handsome to work with on a daily basis. Father Garen's dimples disappeared. It was worth a shot. Lily took a step from the balcony edge to the staircase. I just thought you should know that these men weren't speaking too highly of you. I can handle ill talk. I'm sure you can, she said and continued for the door. Thank you, Father Garen. By the time she reached the bottom of the stairs, Lily decided Sister Inez was right about staying away from the mysterious Jean Garen. With a cluttered mind, Lily paid little attention to the real world as she crossed from the road, past Apple's Field, and into the wooded ravine of home. Had she paid attention, she might have noticed the horses, or even seen the men lounging in the shadows of the trees as home came into view. Instead, it was the whiff of sweet cigar smoke that gave out a tardy warning alarm. Her gasp brought chuckles, but only from the men in the shadows. Welcome home, daughter. Chapter 12. Holding On. What do you want? Lily asked defensively. Big Squeak smirked. Is it a crime to visit my family? Unlike the dead eyes of his gang, her father's eyes sparkled with mischief, as if 1,000 possibilities were passing through his mind. A fresh welt across his cheek almost drew blood to the surface, but beyond that, he looked a decade younger than her mother. Despite being dubbed Big Squeak, he was compact and coiled like a snake about to strike. Rugged, handsome, and lean, Squeak Homik Asabakashi tried to use his kind smile to charm his way into her heart. Part of her wanted to rush into his arms to tell him all of her problems, but her stomach churned with anger and disgust. It's not happening. Getting arrested for your crimes could hurt your family, she answered, which is why you should just leave us alone. Protecting my family is my first priority in life. My crimes provide you with food and shelter. Ask your mother. With the heel of his boot, he knocked hard against the wooden step, creating an echo that seemed to shake the entire house. Winnie, come on and tell your daughter how I protect this family. The door opened to reveal two strange sights. The first oddity was her jovial mother wearing a mask of sorrow with red-rimmed eyes. Suddenly, the welt on her father's cheek made more sense. Do what you've come to do and leave, she said, holding the second oddity, a big shotgun she kept under her bed. Both hammers were pulled back as if she was going to shoot a rabid skunk. That's not an answer, he said, turning to her, unfazed by the shotgun. Am I not here to protect my family? Winnie nodded slightly and then slammed the door, leaving Lily to her father. What is going on? He patted the step, inviting her to join him. Did Mother do that to your face? Big Squeak chuckled and touched the welt. No, this is the work of my loving father. Grandfather Nanak did that to you? He nodded. I might be a scoundrel, but I still know my place and took the chastisement, even though my men would have stomped any other man into the ground for striking me. Your brother can tell you all about it, but I chased off those blanket men trying to poison his mind. Thank God. Where's McGeesy? He went down to the river to wash his hands, he said, and looked down at his own clean palms. When he patted the steps again, Lily obliged. Her father smelled of debauchery, as if the alcohol, vomit, blood, and other unsavory scents from the Loose Goose Saloon all blended together to blanket him in sin. Why is Mother crying? It seems I have a forked tongue. For every kind word of kindness I try to offer, it ends up just hurting those I love. Your mother cries because she knows I speak the truth. Lily scoffed, and in that instant her mockery made her aware of the sinister men nearby. The most frightening of her father's henchmen was called Blackfish, who earned his name by being the best smuggler in Minnesota. Blackfish LaBiche had grown up along the northern shore of Pocahontas Lake before there was the city, Grand Rapids. Like a blackfish, he could swim up any creek, river, or lake in the middle of the night and deliver his cargo before anyone ever spotted him by the light of day. She'd never heard him even utter a word. Then there was Pierre Leduc, who could barely shut his crooked mouth. Yet his eyes were often more profane than his mouth. He seemed to be cleaning a pistol, or in this case, he always seemed to be cleaning a pistol, or in this case, sharpening a knife. The others were expendable members of the Black Hat Gang, willing to risk their life for status. You made her cry with the truth? You might think I've abandoned you, but I keep my eyes and ears on Lake Manitou at all times. I know where Bushy Bill Morrison is right now, just like I knew 3 blanket men came to visit here. Care to give your side of the explanation as to why there were uninvited visitors? It's some strange superstition about shells. I spent my childhood playing along this riverbed, and in all that time, I never found any mystical Migi shells. Did your brother really find them? No, Lily snapped. I was the one to find them. Pierre Leduc dropped his knife. Lily wasn't sure if the sight of a weapon or Leduc's knowledge of Migi shells frightened her more. You found them, her father repeated. Did you tell that to your grandfather? No, Magisi just took them to him, trying to please him. Yes, I've noticed how he's taken to my father. That's what happens when he has no father figure around. Black's Big Squeak laughed heartily. Suppose I deserve that. His charming smile faded. Holding back the truth is the same as lying. You owe your brother an apology. What for? Big Squeak looked away. When I heard you were coming home from White Earth, part of me mourned, and part of me rejoiced. I hoped you'd make a good citizen of your brother, and now I find him embracing the old ways. Better than being a criminal. No, crime will continue into the next century, but the ways of the blanket men won't. Tawapa, there's a reason why I came home. I need to... Lily. I don't want to be called Tawapa anymore. I'm Lily. He shrugged. Lily, that's good. That's very American of you. The boarding school took a little Indian girl and created an American woman out of you. Is he mocking me? Or have I become what he wanted? Why are you here? What do you need? He ignored the question. The people in White Earth spoke highly of you, Lily. Really? She felt her heart stop. Who did you talk to? Some of the elders. They thought you were a good teacher because you were born a Wabano. A what? Ah, I suppose you don't know that word yet. My father would never teach a girl. He chuckled. They thought you were a sorceress, the way you controlled the children. An insult within a compliment. A witch? A witch, he confirmed with a wicked grin. None of them could understand how you were able to control such wild children at the school. They assumed you put a spell over them. Of course not. Good. I don't want my father filling your head with nonsense. Do you understand, too? Lily, I stopped being 2 when I was baptized. Baptized, huh? Did the old nuns force you? Did they beat it into you? He gestured at the crucifix on her neck. I chose to be a Christian. Oh, that's good. So what's the real reason you didn't go back to White Earth? Why did you come back home? I wanted to take care of mother and grandfather, and to get some experience teaching white children. Big Squeak scoffed. Your mother certainly doesn't look to be starving. Despite what she says about me, I send her more than enough money. Does he know what I did? Or what happened? Then perhaps I feel a loyalty to my family, which is something you wouldn't understand. In my heart, I was happy my little flower left this place. So I just wanted to know why you came home. I heard some things. Swallowing became difficult, and she felt an old ache. Being surrounded by a gang of gawking men made her fears even worse. What sort of things? When you're a man in my position, information is a commodity. I heard that some young buck from Fond du Lac apparently was giving you a hard time. Is that why you left White Earth? Guilt? He knows. He has to. Does he know what I did? If Lily's fingernails bit into her palms, keeping her focus. Keeping her focused in front of the men. No, that's not why I left. Her father continued playfully. There are rumors going around the villages, especially in Lac du Flambeau, Some of the blanket men talk about a great thunderbird that will rise and usher in a new era. Some blanket men from Odina speak of finding new paths. Crazy old men are bound to talk. Is that why my Christian daughter refused a paid position and encouraged her brother to learn the old ways? He's got it all wrong. No, I'm not some sort of witch, sorceress, or whatever you said earlier. Second, I turned down the job at White Earth because it's getting worse by the day, and bootleggers like you are no better than the loggers stealing the land. Third, I didn't refuse a paid position. I'm going to get diverse teaching experiences so I can get a really good job this fall. I'm teaching lessons to white children each Sunday, and I might take a position as a language tutor. Lily felt like she was back at Sacred Mission, debating one of the boys. Language tutor? Her father took several moments to ponder what she said. She was relieved that her angry tort distracted him from more talk of White Earth. Is that all? Big Squeak raised his eyebrows and sighed. I know you don't like me, and I understand, but I want you to know that I'm dedicated to protecting you. If you ever need my help, like with young bucks from Fond du Lac, you can count on me. You understand that, right? Lily looked away to compose herself. Yes. Now, can I go? I suppose it's time the boys and I pay Adam Thunderface a visit, he said, rising from the porch steps. The shadows from under the trees rose, drifting toward Big Squeak. Lily watched them with caution. Don't forget about McGeesy. She stayed, gritting her teeth and fighting tears, at the steps for a few moments, waiting for her father and his men to disappear. She hadn't wanted to see him, especially now after hearing him speak aloud things she didn't allow herself to think about privately. McGeesy. I have to find McGeesy. Lily jumped up from the porch and rushed to the ravine. She quickly spotted McGeesy's back as he sat upon a stone. As he grew closer, she saw his feet dangling in the water, and that he held something of fascination on his lap. She dragged her feet so as not to startle him, but he didn't react. Father Guerin said he's going to make sure nobody takes any of the land on this side of the river. He claims to be helping our people. No reaction. He's really upset. Lily transitioned from the bank to the rocks along the water's edge. He seems to know the story of our family, too. How Shagabay led Nicolette into Lake Manitou and brought him up the river to the spot where the pillagers... Leave me alone, he said, turning away from her. He needs you. So what has you upset? That father's returned? Or that the toothless ones have left? Don't blow this. Why did you say that? Can you just go away? I'm just trying to help you. That's what Father said, but he ruined everything. He remembered the mark on Big Squeak's cheek. Did they get into a fight? McGeesy nodded. What happened? He tore apart the sweat lodge before we were even finished, and then he began beating Clyde Speaks first, which is when Nanak began hitting Father with his smoke pipe, which broke. It broke, too, right in the middle of the ritual. I was supposed to be tested, but now... Poor kid. How do I tell him it's for the best? Lily took a step closer. Father left. Is he gone for good? I don't think he's going far. It sounds like he'll be up at Lyons tonight. McGeesy sniffed. I really thought I was special. You are special, Lily insisted. Lily put her hands on his shoulders and kissed the back of his head. You should have been named Mighty Turtle Killer. McGeesy chuckled weakly at that. He lifted his forearm to wipe his nose, revealing bandaged hands. Did Father do this to you? Lily claimed the second half of the rock to sit upon. No. What happened? What's wrong with your hands? I can see blood seeping through. Like I said, I'm not special. Let me see what's wrong with your hands. Does Mother know? She's the one who bandaged my burns. Is that why she'd been crying? Her pity turned to anger. Burns? Someone burned you? Did Nanak do this to you? No, we were preparing for the summer solstice. I was feasting in order to prepare my life path for when the cedar trail aligns. Then he shows up and ruins everything. So Father stopped it and got in a fight with the blanket men. His gang beat up the attendants and even hurt Clyde Speaks first. They didn't do anything to me. They burned your hands, McGeesy. No, it wasn't like that. After my fast, I was supposed to find out if I was a Wabano, a fire handler. Which is why Father told me to apologize to my brother. It should have been me to get hurt. I was the one who found the shells. After Father took the smoke straw and broke it, his gang drew their guns and forced the others to go. When I saw they were going to leave and that everybody was fighting, I decided that I needed to show them. So I brought one of the stones heating on the coals, found one of the stones heating for the ritual, and I tried to pick it up and bring it to the lodge. Oh, McGeesy, Lily whispered, pulling him close. I'm so sorry. He started to sob, and she kissed the top of his head again. I've got something that might make you feel better. Do you want to hear about it? McGeesy wiped his tears from her eyes with his wrist and nodded. He looked to her for answers. Are the white earth elders right? Am I a witch casting spells on children? Chapter 13. Kill the Messenger. The pain in McGeesy's burnt palms kept him awake most of the night, but the sound of a raven outside of his window forced him from his bed at the break of dawn. They're laughing at me. His sister slept on the other side of the room, dreaming of chalkboards, textbooks, and noble priests, most likely. Turning away, McGeesy moved so quietly that not a board creaked as he left the small bedroom. The kitchen table bench propped the front door closed, and with the door open to his mother's room, he could see the shotgun still ready in case their father returned. He stealthily crept past her to the front door. As soon as he stepped out on the porch, the cooler air greeted him with its gentle kiss. And for just a moment, he forgot his pain. Then the raven cried out again. He's telling everyone I'm a fraud. With his bandaged hands, he picked up a handful of rocks from the base of the house foundation and marched around to the rear of the house to confront the raven. Show yourself, you bastard, I dare you. The challenge was answered within seconds by an ebony messenger as large as an eagle. It stood in the twisted branches of an oak just inside the upper canopy. The first ricocheted miserably, not even reaching the upper branches before dropping to the earth. The raven quaked again, laughing. The second toss almost did the trick, finding a narrow path through the branches until it struck the perching branch 5 inches from clawed feet. The raven launched itself away from McGeesy toward the river, preventing a third throw. Even so, he threw above the oak, wishing for the perfect shot. The stone dropped into the ravine near his unconscious father. The shock of seeing a body took McGeesy several seconds to act. Is he drunk? Is he dead? Big Squeak sprawled out in the place where the eroding topsoil met the bedrock of the cavern walls. If he rolled, or was pushed, his body would drop 10 feet onto jagged rock. McGeesy clutched the fourth stone as he approached. A black slouch hat covered his father's face, but McGeesy knew the rest of the details. The American boots, the deerskin pants, the blue denim shirt, unbuttoned to reveal bruised ribs, red splotches along his neck, and a large bite mark on the flesh above his collarbone. He stank of alcohol and armpits. Why are you such a coward? A pistol was drawn, cocked, and aimed before McGeesy finished speaking. Oh, I thought you were someone else. The pistol lowered, and the brim of the hat lifted to reveal a bruised and battered face. His father had a swollen eye, blood around his nostril, and a split lip. Boy, don't assume to understand a man until you've walked a few miles in his boots. The scent of alcohol allowed McGeesy's anger to return. His palms ached. You ruined everything. You don't even understand what's happening, Big Squeak said, and then groaned. How are your hands? They hurt? Hurt, I understand. Hurt will toughen up a fellow. With my blood flowing in you, you're going to need to prepare yourself for a tough life. With another groan, he sat up, then grew wide-eyed when he saw where he'd collapsed. Stay away from alcohol, son. It makes you do all sorts of stupid things. What happened to you last night? McGeesy asked, focusing on his father's wounds. Exactly. What happened? You're too young to understand most of it, Big Squeak said with a chuckle. Did you get in a fight? Fight? No, I had to put a bully in his place. It took a bit of a beating, but I found out what I needed. I'd stay away from the loose goose for a few weeks. He felt his split lip with his tongue. I had the strangest dream just a few minutes ago, his father interrupted. I dreamed of some strange-looking blanket man with braided horns on his head, standing on the shores of Lake Manitou, right where it drains into Split Rock, and I watched him melt away the stone and drain the whole lake until nothing remained. Do you know what I saw at the bottom of the lake? The horned serpent? Big Squeak shook his head. Nothing. Brush and trees grew where the lake stood. The blue knife found a new channel, and Lake Manitou just vanished from the map. No Split Rock, no St. John. It all just vanished. What do you think it means? McGeesy blinked under the spotlight of his father's intense gaze. It means our people will vanish just like the lake if we don't stop following the path of the Zaganash, like you do with your alcohol. There, I said it. Big Squeak laughed, causing him to wince afterwards. He sat up fully and twisted his back a bit. When I was your age, I found a cave somewhere near here. When I told your grandfather, he pulled the same shit with me, bringing in blanket men from all over the north. He's a lunatic, your grandfather. Let me save you the time and a pound of flesh. It takes courage to betray your people, your family, and your father. But when you know what's at stake, then you can see if my boots fit. I'll never walk in your boots. Geesey calmed his breathing, and then the tail sunk in. Grandfather Nanak tried to test you? Oh, yes. Once I found the cave, I don't think he had a choice. In fact, that's when a dark figure appeared just past McGeesy's head. His father's swollen right eyes turned to it, and before McGeesy could even understand, before he could see it, the pistol flew from his father's lap, aimed and fired. The cocked hammer, bringing thunder and death cry to the valley. Instead of fear or alarm, the death cry that followed the pistol shot sounded aggressively angry, and it wasn't until McGeesy turned that he saw the dark object was a dying raven. The black bird had landed on an overturned limb, and when it fell further, it landed with a bounce just feet behind McGeesy. It stretched its wings widely before going limp. Red blood came oozing out of its broad breast muscles. Bastard, Big Squeak muttered before spitting towards the fallen creature. No wonder I had bad dreams with him so close. These bastards are always whispering in my ear, trying to make me doubt. He shook his head. Did you know ravens can speak? McGeesy nodded. I might not be a good father, but let me give you some advice. Stay the hell away from ravens. If you start listening to them, they'll drive you crazy. At least we can agree on this. Grandfather Nanak says that the owls are, for a second time, they were interrupted. This time it was the heavy running that caused McGeesy to stop as his father's pistol turned away from the wooded part of the upper ravine. Blackfish Labiche appeared, stopping when he saw the pistol. A moment later, Pierre Leduc came running up also. "Damn son of a whore," Big Squeak muttered, pointing to the dead raven. Both men relaxed and smirked at their leader. "You should run back to your mother," Big Squeak said to McGeesy before he turned to face Leduc. "Get the men ready. We've worn out our welcome." "He's leaving so soon?" His father stood and walked over to the black mound that had been his nemesis. McGeesy watched as he retrieved the bird by the feet and carried it back to where he stood. "Give me your knife," he ordered Blackfish, and once it had been handed to him, he knelt down and sliced off the bird's wings. Shoving the wings into the side band of his slouch hat, Big Squeak quickly wound a leather band around the hat until the wings were secure. As Big Squeak modified his hat, McGeesy noted his bloody but unblemished hands. "If you were tested, why didn't you have burns on your hand?" Big Squeak put the black hat on his head. "That's how you deal with bullies, son." McGeesy understood. His father had become a predator in a world of bullies. Chapter 14. A Snail Without a Shell. Fawn Chevril held the last Migi shell in the cup of her hand, feeling the old porcelain warm to her body's temperature. A magic shell. Lily and McGeesy had claimed the rest of the treasure trove and brought it directly to the strange old shaman Nanak. But she spent another hour digging around in the mud until she found one last shell, which she kept for herself. Fawn climbed out from under the tarp and went directly to the cold fire. A handful of pine needles, twigs, and 2 fresh logs brought the campfire to life. The Black Hat gang, including her father, Michael Chevril, had been gone for days, leaving just the women and children camping along the Blue Knife River. With the chaos of the brief reunion came a bounty of food, and once she was warm, she walked over to the top crate and grabbed a few of the fresh biscuits, and then headed north. North was better for a variety of reasons. The Chippewa communities of Red Lake and Leech Lake acted as her fall and winter home, which meant solid stone and wood walls instead of waking under a tarp each day. There were fewer white people in the north also. Which meant she could walk without fear of reprise. And by walking north, she avoided ghosts. A summer along the Blue Knife River meant hearing the horror stories of monstrous horned serpents, epic battles between tribes, Takpai feeding on the souls of the slain, and the brutal murders of women and children during times of war. Old Nanak told the worst stories, but her mother whispered one that only her family told, how 3 generations of women were harvesting rice along the outlet of Lake Manitou when a crazed Sioux zealot attacked them, with only the youngest, Fawn's grandmother, surviving. The incident almost sparked a war between the Sioux and the Chippewa. For this reason, walking north was better. The steep rocky walls of the Blue Knife River ravine ended a few miles to the north, and where the stone met the floor of the world, the little village of Nimrod Crossing stood. A straight road ran from east to west for miles and miles, crossing the wider Crow Wing River at the massive Pine Log General Store. It also had a collection of tall houses built for the merchants. Fawn knew her place and remained in the shadows. But something else lurked in the shadows, she soon noticed. Under the bridge, she saw a shirtless Zaganash with clean-shaven cheeks and circular glasses stretching along the shore. Oh, hello there. It's Lily's mystery man. Creeping closer as the sun began to appear over the top of the trees, Fawn studied Father Garin, noticing a monstrous horse stood tethered under the shadow of the bridge, along with a military-grade olive tent. Without his black robes, he looks like a plucked chicken. Fawn watched him wash his face, comb his hair, start a fire, and prepare a breakfast from some dried mixture. As he walked around the camp, she noted something quite peculiar. She'd seen plenty of naked men in her life, from peeking into her mother's tent to drunken buffoons who urinated on trees. But the priest was different. Are those scars? A red scar, long enough to gut a man, ran from his right side up towards his nipple ringed with boyish hair. 2 more white scars could be seen at his right shoulder, each on the opposite side of where a suspender would be, a sign a bullet had passed right through to the other side. Maybe Winnie is right about him being a soldier. Soon he returned to his tent and began buttoning his shirt, finishing with his priestly collar. When he went to inspect his cooking, he glanced upwards, and Fawn locked eyes with him. Father Garin rose slowly from his crouched position. Lily? Fawn went to run, but she quickly took command of her fears, and just like him, rose and stepped into view. Lily is my cousin. A river stood between them. I'll be safe. And who are you? Fawn Chevril. I'm Father Jean Garin. I know. Lily told me about you. He put his hands on his hips. She did. Hopefully good things. He's smiling. Does he have a crush on her? Fawn walked down to the edge of the river, and as she did, she saw a few more peculiar items. 2 revolvers and a sheathed knife sat out with a Bible and rosary beads. All the items just waiting to be used. She said you were some sort of ambassador from the Catholic Church, a Jesuit. Pausing, she asked, how did you get those scars? Clearing his throat, he replied, I assumed I had privacy, my apologies. He tended to his food for a minute before asking, would you like some breakfast? Lily's right. He is hiding something. I already had biscuits. You must be an early riser. Does that mean I'm pretty close to Turtle Island Reservation? A small hump kept the 2 rivers from merging, with the Skinny Blue Knife on the western slope and the Crow Wing River on the east. Yeah, it basically starts right on the other side of the bluff. I came back from Leech Lake pretty late last night, so when I found this river, I wasn't entirely sure if it was the Blue Knife or the Crow Wing. It's the Crow Wing. You could have followed it to Split Rock. They both turned to watch the current flowing south. When Fawn looked back, Father Garin was staring at her. So you said you were a cousin to Lily Weber. Does that mean your grandfather is also Nana Conan? Fawn shook her head. No, we're distant cousins. Nana Conan's grandfather connects us, all of us cousins, together. So what's your dotem again? Lily's right. He really wants to be an Indian. So she shrugged. My clan? I'm French. Father Garin heartily laughed at her flat humor. Chevril, yes, that does seem obvious. My mother's side is mostly Wawasheshi. Ah, the Antler clan. The poets. My father's side is from the Wolf clan at Leech Lake. She realized she had walked right up to the edge of the water to speak with him. Why can't all Zaganash be nice like him? We moved north after they closed the reservation. Then she told him all about her life at Mille Lacs, Leech Lake, and Fond du Lac, and even places in Canada. I have a question, Fawn, Father Garin finally interrupted. I'm about to pack up camp, and on my way, I wanted to pay Nanakonan a visit. Could you be my guide for the way back? I suppose. Will Lily get jealous of me? I guess she should have invited me to go with them to the festival. Well, wonderful. Just give me a few minutes to pack up, and I'll cross over to your side of the river. Will Lily be home? Another strange smile at the mention of Lily. No. Why is that? Father Garin asked, continuing to pack up camp. Well, it's Saturday, which means she doesn't teach us. She teaches you. She teaches all us little summer birds. Right after lunch, she gives us 2 hours of lessons. She teaches us language, math, reading, religion, even history. So today is her day off. Oh, well, no. Today she's going to the festival. She said Sister Inez invited her. I can't wait. Let's go visit your grandfather. Fawn nodded. If I can't trust this Zaganash, who can I trust? Chapter 15. Scene of the Crime. Megisi Asabakashi found himself wearing leather boots with a hard heel, dark cotton pants, a white shirt with suspenders over his shoulders, and work gloves to protect his wounded hands. Each time he paddled, a tiny shock of pain came from his hands, but he kept his focus on the far eastern shore and the bluff of granite Nanakonan called Bleeding Rock. Sitting behind him in the birch-bark canoe, his sister steered and paddled as they crossed from the delta of the Blue Knife to the center of Lake Manitou. Nothing much remained of Tu, for she was dressed like every other white woman he'd ever met. She even tucked her long hair into a silly-looking bonnet. For his part, he also dressed like a Zaganash. But it was all part of the negotiation. I look like a fool in order to get her to come with me. So, what's so special about this place? Lily asked a mile into the crossing. It's full of magic. You wouldn't understand. Let me guess. Grandfather told you some spooky stuff happened here? No, he said, but she'd guessed correctly. Do you see the bay in the southeast corner? Yes, what about it? Grandfather said it was the only wild rice field that had never been harvested, which is why it is now nearly impassable. He said that our great-grandfather Shagabay brought Joseph Nicolet through these reeds, but there were lilies around the outlet of the river that had roots that went all the way down to the evil Manitou. That's how it knew they had come. Before Shagabay could share his secrets with Nicolet, the pillagers came and took them all prisoner, except for Nanak, who managed to hide. The pillagers had to let Nicolet go, but later they found and killed Shagabay for bringing people to this unholy place. Lily sighed. You're just a kid, Megisi. You shouldn't be fixated on all these violent stories. Lily paused, gazing at the fields before shaking her head. We're not going into those rice fields to look for the Manitou or horned serpent. Why not? Afraid to get your clothes dirty? Her silence indicated he may have hit a mark. Okay, then I have another plan. We're going to the side of the cliffs, so don't worry about the reeds. You want me to take you to Bleeding Rock? Megisi didn't answer. For a mile, the sheer stone wall made it impossible to climb. Soon they found on the southern slope near the rice fields a rocky shore with an angled access to the top of the cliffs. "Doesn't look as scary as I imagined," Lily remarked after they had gotten out of the canoe and climbed up the steep granite cliff toward the shore. Much of the terrain was covered in rotting pine needles, with jagged rocks popping up as frequently as towering pines. Strangely, McGeesy didn't hear any birds in the trees. "Just wait." "She's bluffing." Even a clueless Christian like Lily understood the power of Bleeding Rock. He saw his sister take out her crucifix to let it dangle over her chest and hid a grin. Like Lily, he'd heard his mother's stories of Bleeding Rock, but after hearing grandfather's version, he needed to see it for himself. The view of the lake improved with their elevation, allowing them to look back at 7 miles of water, where they could see St. John on the far northwestern bank. Both of their eyes remained on the ground, however. "So it's true." He smiled despite the beating of his heart in his ears. The stacks of stone had been toppled, but upon the large circular clearing in the pine forest, grooves had been cut in the stone. McGeesy followed them all the way to the edge of the cliff, where the water's edge waded 30 feet below. "Do you see these grooves carved into the stone?" McGeesy asked as he knelt upon the granite. "This is where they killed the women and their children." When Lily knelt at his side, his fingers guided her fingers to the man-made grooves. The blood would collect here and then trickle into the lake as an offering to the horned serpent. "Who would do such a thing?" Nana Conan said our Ouija-Gan ancestors offered the blood to call the Manitou up from the depths, but the ritual didn't work. Standing, he led Lily away from the open circle and into the trees. He brushed away a coating of pine needles to reveal more moist stone. "Do you see this grainy powder?" "It's blue," Lily whispered. McGeesy nodded. "It belongs to the Manitou. It comes up from deep within the earth through cracks in the stone. The evil one knows his time is coming to an end, so he uses his medicine to allow others to know where he is." "Hold on, is the Manitou the same thing as the horned serpent?" Lily frowned. "How can it be in the waters but also deep in the earth?" McGeesy huffed, even though he'd asked similar questions. "Manitou just means spirit. A horned serpent is an evil water monster. Like a dragon or snake." Why does she need to connect everything to the Zaganash? "I suppose, but those are just simple words. This creature that lives under the lake is sleeping, protected by powerful magic from the dawn. But one day it'll wake, and I must be prepared to fight it, or the whole world will be destroyed." "Did the blanket men tell you this?" "No. Since you left, Grandfather's been teaching me. He said that next summer he'll teach me how to defeat the horned serpent, who will do anything to avoid going to the land of the midnight sun." "And you think you're the one to send him there? What about your burned hands?" McGeesy looked down, feeling a different kind of pain. "If I'm not a fire handler, then I'm probably the Great Thunderbird, and I will force the monster up from the depths, kill him, and bring about the era of the eighth fire. He says our ancestors made a pledge long ago to defeat the horned serpent, but if I am not patient, I will fail like the others. Next summer, I'll learn the song of the Manitou. Nana Conan said it is my destiny. My name means eagle, so it must be true. Let's just worry about learning to read first, then we'll battle monster," Lily joked. "Don't you understand?" He gestured wildly at the evidence, feeling his temper rising. "This is all real. The Ouija-Gan came here, cut these grooves into the stone, and then sacrificed women and children. Our people don't make human sacrifices. It's not the Metaweewan way, and it certainly isn't the Christian way. The Ouija-Gan clan did. Why do you think the woods along Old Copper Road are haunted? The Ouija-Gan took prisoners to this place and spilled their blood at these places where the stone altars once stood.
They cut off the heads of the children and placed them upon their own severed thighs. He noticed his sister was trembling. McGeesy, this is just awful. Stop telling me about it. But our family is both sides of the story. Mother's blood was the Sioux victims. Father's blood has the Ouijigan clan. Our own Chippewa people tried to kill our family for what we did here. But don't you see? It's all true. If the sacrifices were real, then the horned serpent must be real also. Trust me, McGeesy, none of this is real. He scoffed. The shells are real. The dream catcher was real. The ghost in the woods. You're part of this family, too. You need to start acting like it. Lily kept her hands on her hips for a long time before finally asking, which way to town? Grandfather was right. She's a lost cause. Maybe Fawn will be the one to help me. Less than a mile later, they stopped at the headwaters of the Split Rock Creek, where the big lumber mill stood over the top of the fast-moving current to swallow up trees and spit out lumber. If Bleeding Rock won't convince her, maybe Split Rock Creek will. The horned serpent made this creek, McGeesy commented as they descended the granite bluff to the northern edge of town. Erosion formed this creek. Weather fluctuated from year to year and generation to generation. A long time ago, the waters of Lake Manitou were higher and flowed over these granite rocks until this channel was formed, Lily countered. It's science, McGeesy. She shook her head. Let's not talk any more about the horned serpent, okay? If the waters were higher, they would have cut a channel through the rice fields by Canaranzi Creek. That's science, he rebutted. This channel was made by the horned serpent. Supposing what you say is true, why would some all-powerful creature waste its energy defying the laws of physics in order to cut through solid rock? McGeesy shrugged. Grandfather said the horned serpent is avoiding his fate. Avoiding how? His fate is to descend to the River of Souls, which is where I will send him after our battle. At her sigh, he turned to the road leading from mill to town. But first, I'll have to learn the Song of the Manitou to wake it up. Chapter 16, Jubilation. Will the festival be an excuse for kindness or cruelty? Lily had held her head high as if she belonged, yet she and McGeesy lingered at the big bridge for almost 10 minutes as one wagon after another rolled into the town for the Split Rock Jubilee. The smell of roasting meats filled the air, and in the distance, bands sent music echoing through the valley. Normally, Lily walked into town from the north on a quiet Sunday morning. Today was Saturday, and to reach St. Marie's, they needed to cross the busiest part of downtown Split Rock. Act like you belong. Lily stepped off the bridge, knowing that in a few hundred more steps, she'd be in the protective hedge of Sister Inez. This is stupid, McGeesy whispered as he followed her on Market Street. They're all looking at us because we're an Indian. You're paranoid. And besides, Sister Inez is expecting both of us. Lily reached down and grabbed McGeesy's hand, squeezing it with reassurance. Together, they merged with the crowd, and except for cross glances, few people took notice of the two civilized Chippewa youths walking up Market Street. Most of the town flowed toward Fisher Mansion, the creamery, and the train station to listen to the cornet band, but Lily and McGeesy headed up the hill toward two towering spires. Soon, they saw dozens of children filling the lot between the two churches as clergy from both denominations manned stations ranging from bottle toss to bobbing for apples. She's not going to want to talk to you, McGeesy insisted. Not with all the white children here. Sister Inez loves me. Not all white people are bad. Sister Inez lit up when she saw Lily and passed off a young child who was holding to a nearby adult woman and walked over to them. Lily, your ears must be burning. I was just talking about you. Have Have you found a teaching assignment for this fall? I haven't heard back from any of the schools I applied to yet, but it's still very early. I say that because Father Guerin asked me if I knew anyone who would be able to teach him how to speak Chippewa. I know you are very good at teaching Chippewa children how to speak English, but should be just as easy for you to do the opposite. He's obviously charmed her. He's persistent, too. I don't know if I would have time for that. Besides, I really enjoy working with children. Oh, I understand. Perhaps when he returns from his recent trip, we can talk to him about details together. Then Sister Inez turned her gaze to McGeesy. Hello, young man. Do you prefer to be called McGeesy or Eagle? McGeesy scowled and didn't respond. Lily frowned at him in warning. Like I said, he's shy. Well, we have some boys looking to put together a baseball team to compete against boys from other towns. It's a Sunday afternoon league. Sister Inez smiled at McGeesy. Your sister told me how athletic and strong you'd become, and I thought you might be the perfect fit. Let me introduce you to some of them. Nudging her brother, Lily motioned for him to keep quiet. Resigned, McGeesy followed as Sister Inez's tour began with the starting pitcher, Willem McPherson, Emily's older brother. Like herself, he was 15. Like Lily, he was 15 and considered an adult, capable of working at his father's dairy farm full-time. After the introductions, Willem's father whispered something to his son, and Lily, fearing condemnation and judgment, moved closer to her brother. Instead, Willem asked, You look fast. You fast, kid? Fast as a rabbit. McGeesy muttered, Good. We could use a shortstop. Lily smiled when McGeesy relaxed a little. See? A good white family. McGeesy needs to see this. The tour took them to the strong third baseman, Bjorn Forsberg. Bjorn's forehead wrinkled during the introduction as he studied Sister Inez and Lily outside the context of the classroom. Once the situation was explained, Bjorn stood, arms crossed, asking, Does he have a glove? That can be arranged, Sister Inez said before whisking them off to another direction. She lowered her voice when she spoke again. Little Albert Fisher does not bring much to the team as far as athletic ability, but his father purchased equipment for the whole team. We should be able to get an extra glove for you to practice with. I didn't say I'd do it yet, McGeesy corrected. Lily glared at him. When does practice begin? He could play a game as soon as tomorrow. Baseball is pretty simple. You hit the ball or you catch the ball. The boys will teach your brother the rest, and McGeesy let out a little squawk, and when Lily turned, a large Zaganash stood holding her brother by the elbow. Constable Graham, what is the meaning of this? Lily asked. Truancy, Sister Inez. Do you know who this boy is? This is the son of Big Squeak Weber, a known fugitive. He frowned before bellowing, Frankie Auerbach. A boy of 10 with vibrant blonde hair snapped to attention from his game of jacks nearby. Frankie, be a good lad and run to the blacksmith shop and fetch Marshal Morrison. Tell him I have Big Squeak's son. Let go of my brother, Lily protested, but the large man simply laughed and began dragging off her bewildered brother. After a dozen yards, McGeesy began to squirm and wiggle, which only drew laughter from those standing nearby. Do something, Lily turned to Sister Inez, whose eyes darted to her feet. Knowing she would be of no help, Lily ran after Constable Graham as he walked down the crowded avenue toward Market Street. Where are you taking him? She cried out, but she knew the answer. McGeesy was now 8, which was 2 years older than the legal age for all Indian youths to report to boarding schools by the Office of Indian Affairs. When Lily saw that Constable Graham ignored her, she ran ahead and threw herself down on the sidewalk. Please, don't take my brother. This time, Constable Graham stopped. Why? So he could become a criminal and bootlegger like your father? Trust me, this is for his own good. After Constable Graham walked around Lily, she sprang up and ahead of him. Again, McGeesy was bawling like a lamb being led to slaughter. This is my fault. This time, Lily grabbed hold of McGeesy's free arm and tried to pull him out of Constable Graham's grip. which caused him to tuck the boy under his arm and lift his feet off the ground. Once again, there was a chorus of laughter. "Why isn't anyone helping?" The blacksmith shop appeared, with a metal cage being moved out. The cage would serve as a temporary cell for her brother. Reacting quickly, Lily stood in front of Constable Graham and stuck out her arm. When her hand touched his chest, the crowd gasped. "Lily! McGeesy!" The pain came suddenly, with a blinding flash of white before everything else, including her little brother, turned to darkness. Chapter 17, Under the Willow. Pain throbbed from the base of Lily's skull all the way to the back of her eyes. When she opened her lids, the blinding light overwhelmed her, bringing a torrent of vomit. Choking, she rolled to her side and up onto her hands and knees. As soon as it was expelled, her arms gave out and she collapsed to her side. "Where's McGeesy?" Painted gray boards came into focus. "I'm not on the street where I fell." She turned her head slightly, peering through her eyelashes until she realized the object was a white railing. Her numb arms moved, revealing she was covered in blankets. "What have I done?" Lily surrendered to the pain for a few minutes, closing her eyes and taking deep breaths. The silence of her surroundings told her she was nowhere near downtown Split Rock. Finally, she opened her eyelids again. Beyond the white railing, she saw a heap of green that focused into the long fronds of a massive willow tree. Surrounding it, a manicured lawn stretched out between short brick walls. Past the tree, the tops of the homes of St. John could be seen. "I'm at the convent." Her heart jumped for a moment when a figure in a black slouch hat stepped out from behind the willow tree, but only to lift the curtain of fronds. Like her father, he wore denim and his hair pulled back into a ponytail. His frame was even smaller, but he was half her father's age, with scaled boots and tattered pants. Once he lifted the curtain of fronds, Lily could see an old Zaganash sitting in a metal chair. The younger man closed the curtain of foliage, and both figures disappeared. Am I hallucinating? Approaching footsteps sounded so loud that Lily winced, swallowing another round of vomit. Afraid, she closed her eyes. "Oh, darling, we need to keep fluids in you. Let me wipe off your chin." A wet rag passed over her chin. One of the nuns. "Keep your eyes closed, and I'll help you sit up so you can take a drink," the woman said, and a moment later Lily felt hands reaching under her armpits. 2 women then, but she still didn't open her eyes. The change in posture caused her to see spots, even with lids closed. Once the world stopped spinning, she opened her lids slightly to see the robes of 2 nuns. "Where's Sister Inez?" "She went down to the train station with your mother and Father Garrett." Nothing about the statement made sense, but Lily forced her mind to work through it. What happened to McGeesy? How long have I been here? What day is it? It's Monday, almost noon. You took quite a blow to your head, and each time you wake, you vomit and pass out, one of the nuns replied. She waved the other away. While we've got you awake, let's get some chicken broth in you to help you recover your strength." "It's been 2 days?" Lily stayed conscious for the entire bowl and even drank a bit of juice. "Thank you. We brought you out onto the porch because it was cool, shaded, and allowed you to be ill without making a mess inside." "I don't mean to be a burden." "Oh, nonsense. You were known to us before Sister Inez brought you here." The nun smiled and gave her shoulder a squeeze. "Rest your eyes, Lily. Your mother will be back soon, and hopefully with some good news about your brother." Lily moved, her cheek now against a soft pillow, and then heavy steps walked away. Keeping her eyes closed, She pictured the blacksmith shop with her unconscious body in the street and her brother still in a cage. McGeesy, I'm so sorry. The Jubilee had certainly ended by now, leaving the town quiet. She opened her eyes, the town a distant shape of blurs and colors in the valley below. Why can't I focus? She blinked, focusing on the big willow tree in the front yard. Then a pair of legs dangled from the porch roof. McGeesy? Her heart leapt, but the legs belonged to a young woman, not a boy. The young woman wore only a nightgown and turned her body so that her bare feet caught the space in the trellis, and once she put a foot on the deck railing, she dropped to the floor. Lily gasped at how similar the young woman was to herself, except with short bobbed hair. Their eyes locked. If you want to save the children, follow me. How does she know about the children? Before Lily could answer, the young woman began walking to the willow. Lily tried to force herself to move, but her vision blurred again. This must be a dream. How else could she know about the children in the ice? The details of the big willow came into focus. Then from under the willow, the fronds parted, and the young woman stopped. She picked up a knife from the lawn and cut a few fronds from the tree. Who are you? As the woman climbed back up the trellis, Lily again saw the same young man in this black slouch hat step out from the willow, lift the curtain of fronds, and revealed the old man in the metal chair positioned in the exact same way. Is my brain broken? Hey, Lily called out. The young man emerged from the curtain of willow fronds. Lily? I'm on the porch, she answered, still unsure of how she knew the young man, who, despite the similarities to her father, was obviously white. With fronds of willow in his hand, he trotted to the north, completely ignoring her now. Hey, wait! Sudden pain swept over her, and she drifted back to sleep. Lily woke to the sound of a wagon. She opened her eyes to see monstrously large horses with furry legs and huge manes pulling a bright green wagon up the drive. Bjorn Forsberg was driving, holding the reins of the wagon with a tight grip. He avoided her gaze as soon as he saw her. Beside him on the bench, Father Jean Guerin looked over to her and waved. Father Guerin then turned, and Winnie popped up from the back of the wagon. She was alone in the back. No McGeesy. Feeling sick, Lily closed her eyes and wept until she felt her mother's embrace. Chapter 18. Dirty Business. Bjorn Forsberg kept his mouth shut as he drove the wagon to Turtle Island Reservation. He had lent a hand to help transfer Miss Weber into the rear of his family's green wagon back at the convent to sit next to her mother, which was when he discovered the bloodstains on his right forearm and bicep and got a whiff of himself. I need a bath. Beside him, Father Jean Guerin sat sideways on the bench so that he could utter promises and encouragement to Miss Weber's brother. Annoyed at the talkative priest, Bjorn studied the man's boots, trying to discern from the mud where the priest had taken his father's retired draft horse, Goliath, during the previous week. If Nielsen wanted to bother Goliath, he would have had to sign away half of his crop. Is it because the man's a priest? Bjorn kept the team of horses at a steady trot up the road. Goliath better not be covered in mud. Two of their titans pulled the green wagons. Svadilfari and Sleipnir were monstrous Swedish horses from the North Country. Whether hauling wagons of milk, uprooting trees, or unearthing boulders, draft horses could do the work of a dozen men. We might be poor, but nobody has better horses than us. Upon leaving the Nimrod Road, the wagon found a simple path that led to the ravine of the Blue Knife River. There, at a modest cabin, a handful of Chippewa children helped the Weber women from the wagon. Bjorn sat stoically while everyone entered the cabin. All the tears and pain had been almost too much, so he was content to wait in the wagon rather than go inside. At the rear of the house, he spotted Goliath tethered to a tree with a plate of corn at its base. Pleased to see the horse, he dismounted and retrieved Goliath, rubbing the sandy mud from his haunches. Father Garin took him north. With Goliath secure, Bjorn climbed back up onto the wagon and waited. And waited. I'm going to miss evening milking. Several minutes later, the Jesuit priest emerged, along with a few children who eyed him suspiciously. "I'll walk back to town, Bjorn," Father Garin said. "Thank you for all of your help the past few days." "It seemed the right thing to do," Bjorn said, and before the priest could say more, he turned the wagon around for Split Rock. To return home, Bjorn entered Split Rock from the north, passed over the big bridge spanning the confluence of the Split Rock Creek and Crowing River, then traveled down Market Street, which reminded him of the dramatic scene from Saturday. I can't believe nobody stood up to Morrison. On the far end of town, he turned at the sign for the creamery. A newly built trestle bridge spanned the Crowing River, allowing him to pass back across to the western bank, where on the granite ridge overlooking the new creamery, his family's dairy farm perched high above the lake and river. With the house on the high ground to the west and the dairy barn down slope to the east, he drove the rig straight to the horse barn in the rear center of the homestead. His mother stood on the porch, and his sisters were walking toward the barn, where his father waited. Good. Just in time for evening milking. Near his father, a visitor sat on a pale horse with a two-toned mane. Martin Nielsen. "There's our little hero," Nielsen said. I'll call him Martin. The Norwegian farmer had quartered his sister Britta 2 summers earlier, and even after he married another local girl, he still looked to Bjorn's father, Gustav, as a father figure in matters of farming. "I heard you snatched that stick from Bushy Bill and shoved it where the sun doesn't shine." Bjorn smirked and shook his head. He'd snatched the stick from the lawman's hand and threw it to the ground. "I didn't shove it anywhere." But he enjoyed the attention Martin was giving him. At 18, Martin Nielsen served as a big brother for Bjorn and provided most of the joy in his life. "How's the girl?" Nielsen asked. Bjorn felt his ears grow warm. "Miss Weber's awake now and seems to be getting better. I brought her home today." "You did good, Bjorn. Now I've got to get back to the little missus before supper. I think your father needs a hand. Better hustle." "Girls," Gustav Forsberg barked from the doorway of the dairy barn, and Bjorn's sisters stopped waving at Martin and ran to the barn. Bjorn hustled to unharness the horses, park the wagon properly, and release the horses into the rear corral. Once finished, he immediately joined his father. One at a time, his father was instructing as Bjorn entered the barn. Gustav lifted the bucket of corn and climbed into the milking chute. He poured out a long line of corn down the chute and then filled up 4 small buckets of water and set them at the end of the chute. By the time he returned to the gate, Bjorn and his sisters were standing above the little buckets of water. "Be sure to clean their teats well. It's been muddy the last few days, and I don't want to give Van Slyke any excuse to drop the price." Bjorn nodded and moved to carry his pail next to the milking stalls. Bjorn's older sister, Britta, took the second stall. In the fourth stall, 7-year-old Signe would take almost 30 minutes to milk old Millie, who was the most docile of the herd. Even so, Gustav had made sure Millie's leg was tied down so as not to kick his youngest. 10 minutes into milking, Britta interrupted the sound of squirting milk and crunching corn with the sweet melodies of Rejoice All Ye Believers, which was her favorite hymn. Normally, Bjorn rushed through milking in order to free himself to either prepare the horses for a delivery or to hunt and fish. Tonight, he took his time, knowing he and Father would finish the cows while the girls helped with the other chores prior to supper. As soon as the girls finished and left the barn, Gustav said, "So tell me about the ordeal." Constable Graham had McGeesy, and out of nowhere, Marshal Morrison cracked Miss Weber in the back of the head. Bjorn started. The words rushed. Folks just stood there as she bled, so I offered my help to Sister Inez, who was the only one raising a fuss. He looked at the blood stain on his right arm, where Miss Weber's bleeding head had been cradled. I helped carry her to the convent where she could get help, but then Sister Inez asked if I could fetch Miss Weber's mother, which is when I borrowed the wagon. I'm sorry for taking it without asking, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Yes, it was. Your actions made me proud, his father replied. Though Nielsen told me you disarmed Morrison. That might have been a bit too bold. I know, but he hit a woman. I know she's Indian, but she's also a teacher. Gustav nodded. I see you brought Goliath home also. When I got to the reservation, Father Guerin was there, and we both jumped into the wagon with me. It wasn't until Sunday that I realized Father Guerin left Goliath back at the reservation, so I had to bring him back out when I dropped Miss Weber and her mother at their home. Feed him well and clean him up tomorrow. Gustav looked in the direction of the horse stall before returning to the boy. It's a story. And the boy? They sent him away with an Indian agent this morning, despite the protests from Father Guerin, Father Aber, and Sister Inez. They're sending him to Pennsylvania, Bjorn scowled. It's not right. How can they do that? There are laws of God, and then there are laws of men. Being lawful doesn't always make it right, Gustav sighed. You did the right thing in helping that family. What do you know about Father Guerin? What do you want to know? Bjorn tensed, afraid to question the behavior of an adult. The day he showed up in Split Rock, he came to see you. How do you know him? Bjorn crossed his arm after asking the question. Gustav was silent for a few minutes. In a way, he's an old friend of the family. Father Guerin is to be trusted. It was close to his father telling him to shut his mouth, so Bjorn dropped it and went back to milking. Once they were finished, his father asked, "Why do you ask about Guerin?" Bjorn shrugged. There was blood on Goliath when I got him home, but Father Guerin didn't have a scratch. I couldn't figure out where the blood came from. Even though you have the strength of a man, you're still a boy. There are things about this world you're just not ready to know. One day, you'll know the way things are, and you'll wish to be a boy again. For now, just look away and stop asking questions about Father Guerin. He's a good guy that has had to do some bad things. Understand? Bjorn didn't, but he nodded anyway and followed his weary father into the house for supper. Chapter 19. The Lost Child. One by one, the other children vanished. Fawn Chevril knew it wasn't the Wintermaker or some foul forest monster like she dreamed. She saw the children leave. First, Blackfish Labiche had come to collect his wife and children from summer camp, vanishing within an hour of appearing. Next, Pierre Leduc had arrived, offering a bit more of an explanation. They took McGeesy to get Big Squeak to step into a trap. They kept him chained up at a train station in Brainerd for a few days, and then took him to Duluth for another few days. They were just hoping Big Squeak would be stupid enough to rescue him. So they're really sending McGeesy to Pennsylvania? Fawn asked Leduc. A pawn, but he'll be safe, but quite miserable. He's in a different kind of trap now, and now it's a waiting game. Big Squeak wants us all to get our families someplace far away so they don't get used as leverage against us. Is my dad coming? I ain't seen your father in a while, but I'm sure he'll come for you sooner or later. Hang tight until then. After a week, Fawn's mother left with her little sister to go visit an ex-husband at Leech Lake. But they didn't come back. After a summer storm left her cold and miserable, Fawn went to live with the Webbers rather than look for her mother. So why did they send McGeesy to Pennsylvania? Fawn asked as the three women worked together in the kitchen. At the mention of McGeesy, Lily's eye grew a little clouded. The school in Pennsylvania takes natives from all sorts of tribes. They do that so the kids can't speak their own tongue and are forced to learn English. Why did they send you to Morris? The more you fight it, the harder it is on you. The girls who lived with me at Morris didn't care anymore. The girls who fought it were either beaten or sent away. I'm guessing McGeesy fought those Indian agents pretty hard. Both of them seem okay with this. It makes me wonder if Lily didn't bring him to town knowing he'd be taken away. Would she do that? Is there any chance he can get sent back to Minnesota? Winnie was the one who answered with, Father Guerin is writing some letters to see if he can get McGeesy released, but it takes a while for these things to happen. Fawn glanced at Lily, holding her gaze just long enough to indicate that she had something important to say, not suitable for the ears of a parent. When the meal was finished, the two girls stepped outside to talk. I meant to say something, Fawn began once they stood near the ravine, but it was so crazy with you getting hurt and McGeesy getting taken. What are you talking about? I don't think Father Guerin is a real priest. No, he's a Jesuit. It's a different kind of priest. I don't think he's a priest of any kind, Fawn insisted. A while ago, I found him camped by the Nimrod Bridge, and he had his shirt off so I could see his chest, and he had scars all over his body. He's been shot and stabbed. Plus, after they came to get Winnie, I took care of Forsberg horse he borrowed. There was blood on it. And in his saddlebag, he had a list of names, including all of our fathers in the Black Hat gang. What if he's a villain? What if he's trying to capture or kill our fathers? That's Bushy Bill, Lily dismissed, not Father Guerin. He's some sort of ambassador. Are you sure? I walked with him the whole way back because he wanted to visit Nanaconan. And the whole time, he asked me 100 questions. And it's just not getting to know you questions, but some very weird questions about our family. Fawn sniffed. I don't trust him, Lily. Listen, the folks in St. John are trying to steal our land. They already have a crew preparing to make a bridge down by the lake. I heard it from their own mouths that Father Guerin was trying to stop them. He's our ally on this. Why do you think we should do that? What do you think we should do? Fawn shrugged. After sitting on their rock, Lily deflated. Nanaconan won't even speak to me. My own grandfather thinks I did this on purpose. Did you? Of course not. Why would you say that? Because you seem to hate everything about being Chippewa. Look at you. You're trying pretty hard to be Miss Perfect White Girl. Now that McGeesy has been sent away, he can't learn how to be a firekeeper, Midday, or Jessicid. Lily's shoulders fell as she bowed her head. McGeesy and I had something strange happen to us, and I just didn't want it to get worse. I didn't wish this upon him. What sort of strange thing happened? Lily looked down the valley. I need you to be very quiet. The last time McGeesy and I did this, we almost got caught trespassing. But I want you to see something, okay? Fawn nodded and followed her down the ravine, across the Blue Knife River, and up the western slope. Like a pair of rabbits, the girls lingered at brush and darted between trees until Lily stopped at a tree where a dream catcher hung. Nana Conan gave that to us. That's all? Yeah, I see them all the time, Fawn muttered. It's a dream catcher. Mothers put them above sleeping babies. When you look in the web, do you see anything? What, like the little stones tied onto the sinew? No, in the space between the strings. I just see space. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Can you take it down and check? Fawn stepped back in alarm. Why are you being so weird? You don't understand what it's like living next to Nana Conan. Once he puts something in your head, it's all you can think about. He had me and McGeesy convinced that the dream catcher you're holding could capture ghosts. Fawn untied the dream catcher and held it with both hands upon the frame of the loom. No matter the angle, she saw through the loom to the other side. Nothing? Fawn shook her head. Can you please destroy it? With a shrug, she obliged. And for a moment, Lily seemed comforted. So my father's spook stories about my cousins are true.